I don't know if they need to give us like a little go ahead or if I'm just supposed to go.
We're just supposed to go.
Awesome. Well, we'll go and get started. Thank you guys so much for joining us on all the social media platforms and here via Zoom. In 2020, Zoom is the way that we do most things. I'm Jamarcus Gaston, class of 2007, a proud graduate of Furman University. I'm in the music department, communication studies department, so shout out to those departments. I decided early on that I wanted to go to Furman, a sophomore in high school, actually, that I knew I wanted to be a Paladin, and I'm proud of that decision from then until now. So I graduated from Furman in 2007, decided to get into the media business, started working here at WSPA in 2007, right after college, and I've been here for 13 years now, so it seems like only yesterday, but Furman really gave me the background with both the strong programs in communication studies and music to be able to do anything that I needed to do here in TV, and I've had such a great time working here in Greenville, and Furman plays a large part of that success. So I wouldn't trade in my Paladin status for anything, and I'm so honored that the university asked me to be a part of Furman at Home. Of course, 2020 is different in the way we do everything. So having homecoming here virtually is new to all of us, but any way that we can wear our purple and white, we want to do that. So thank you guys so much for joining us and taking some time out of your schedule to do that. I also want to thank our fearless leader, President Davis, for joining us for this State of Furman conversation. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything. Dr. Davis, good to see you, and thank you for allowing me to lead this interview today.
Well, it's great to see you, Jamarcus, and we're so proud that you're a Furman alumnus. Purple looks good on you. I've told you that before, and I really like that purple outfit you're in today. What a crazy day we've had, or really the last 24 hours. So I'm at home. The house is running on a generator, and hopefully the Wi-Fi will work. So it's been an interesting 24 hours. In fact, campus is closed because of all the trees that are down. So I'm glad we have Zoom capabilities so we can continue to connect.
Right, and for those folks that are unaware, of course, with Tropical Storm Zeta coming through the upstate, we've had a lot of rain, lots of power lines down, lots of trees down. So our thoughts and prayers are to all of those that are impacted by that. But you know, it's something that 2020 has thrown at us yet again, Dr. Davis.
Well, it has, and one of the things I wanted to say to our alums who are on the webinar with us is that I want to just take a moment to remember Ava Devine, a senior that we lost a couple of weeks ago to a tragic accident. You know, that's one of the most difficult things that we have to face on campus when we lose a member of our community. And so we're doing a lot to support our students. I talked to her mom, and they are living day to day. So, you know, 2020 it's been a tough year all around, but we're resilient and we're working through it.
And our thoughts and prayers to her family and to the Furman family. I know that it's a tough time for all involved there. We will start this conversation with COVID-19 because it's one that has taken a direct impact to higher education. And I don't need to tell you that, Dr. Davis, but we do have questions from our Furman alums. And one comes from Latoya Mitchell-Hodges from class of 2004, and it's a great starting point for us. She says, how has COVID-19 affected the campus? What are some of the changes that have occurred because of COVID-19 that you could see continuing on campus after the pandemic is over?
Well, it's a great question. So the students and faculty are spread out everywhere. I mean, we have classes in Yonts. We have classes in the Herring Center where our Ollie folks meet. Because one thing we needed to do was to be able to de-densify these spaces. If you walked into a classroom, you would see students 6 feet apart with their masks on, but then also on the wall, you might see the screen with the students who are zooming in. So our faculty have become really great at being able to use the technology to be able to meet our students where they are. About 300 students are remote only. And so we have worked to find ways to engage them with organizations since they won't be able to do all of that on campus. You know, this technology has given us so many advantages. We have found that we can connect our students with alumni more easily. So our mentoring process continues and really has been enhanced. We're bringing more visitors into the classroom, right? So people with expertise that normally it might be difficult to get to come to campus. When we went virtual back in March, our internship office, our career services office, undergraduate research office really started immediately working to find ways to continue to provide the Furman Advantage to our students. So like one of the things that our Study Away office found were international internships that would be virtual. So in fact, what this has done is it's expanded our opportunities for our students. And so it's going to be great going forward that we have this technology and these capabilities.
And President Davis, I've taken advantage of that. I had a Furman student reach out to me interested in television, and we had an opportunity to do Zoom calls. We did Zoom tours here at the studio in downtown Greenville. Conversation. So it really has been one of those things that previously is like, oh, you have to match schedules, and now you can do it anytime.
Right. Well, thanks for doing that, Jamarcus. I know that student really appreciated it.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't talk her out of a career in TV. The craziness that happens behind the scenes here. We have another question from Tony McDade, class of 1979. How can alumni best help to recruit students to attend Furman during these days of COVID?
You know, one of the best things alumni can do, whether it's COVID or not, is really help raise the name recognition of Furman. So when you're out, wear your Furman shirt, have a Furman sticker on your car, because that always generates conversation. And then you can really appeal to those students to apply to and attend Furman. Another thing that would be really helpful is to provide internships and job opportunities to Furman students, because that really, seeing that bridge from Furman to the world of work is one of the things that actually can help recruit students to Furman, that they know there's not just excellent academics, but there's that network that helps them beyond life. Again, Jamarcus, just like you did with the student who reached out to you. Of course, you know, we have fan clubs around the country, so being engaged to that and even inviting people to those events that you know might be interested. And Furman always can use your financial support. It doesn't have to be big, but one of the ways that people assess how much their alumni care for their university is by the percentage of alumni who give back. So there are so many ways you can give back, whether it's with your time and your talents or your treasure. And we really appreciate all of it.
And that's the thing, like in the age of COVID-19, not all of us are able to give large sums of money to the university, but even the small donations or investing your time and mentoring and helping and sharing the love are all things that can be done. Dr. Davis, you mentioned the Furman Advantage. As the price of higher education continues to grow, what do you think the Furman Advantage is? And we've kind of listed some of them already for people that, you know, are listening in for that, but the Furman Advantage is strong.
The Furman Advantage is strong, and it's built on a foundation of what Furman has always been good about, where faculty and staff really desire to mentor students. And we want to match students with the experiences that will help them beyond the gates. But, you know, a lot of institutions can say they have that, right? We have internships. We have Study Away when you're allowed to travel abroad. What makes the Furman Advantage different is the deliberate and intentional connection of students along a pathway. And that always, as a part of what we do, is the reflection. So I believe it was Dewey that said, let's see, you don't learn from experience, you learn from reflecting on that experience. And what we've been able to find is that when students reflect on those experiences, when they connect them to their academic work, they're actually better able to explain to an employer or to grad school about why they would be an excellent selection. So That's one of the things that has really permeated the campus. So when we had to go virtual in March, nobody said, oh, study away office, see what options there are. Everybody just knows students need experiences. We're going to find a way to do it. So we don't let a little thing like a pandemic get in our way.
You got to keep moving on. And one of the big topics of conversation in the world, not even just in the country, in the world, is race. And, you know, being Black at a higher institution, an institution of higher learning. And Furman is not immune to that discussion. A Black at Furman Instagram account was created by students and alumni earlier this year. What steps has the university taken towards diversity, inclusion, equality, and to address the concerns of students and alumni that were brought up on that Instagram account? All of these colleges have had these questions, and these stories are heartbreaking, and it makes you, question your experience. But I'm interested to know what the university is doing to address those concerns and those stories.
Well, so what I did shortly after becoming aware of the Instagram account and responding, I formed a committee, and it's co-chaired by Dr. Michael Jennings, who is our Chief Diversity Officer, and Dr. Idella Glenn, a Furman alumna, who also worked in the Student Life Division at Furman. And on that committee are alumni from the 70s to 2019, students, and then faculty and staff, all Black alumni, students, faculty, and staff. And their charge is to really understand what's going on at Furman today. And it's not to say that we have everything perfect today. We certainly don't. But we have created a Center for Inclusive Communities that really is about helping our students understand themselves and understand others in this world. We are putting the finishing touches on our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. And I expect to get a report from this ad hoc committee on Black life at Furman by the end of the semester to see what kinds of changes. One, for example, is we've had a Black alumni group for a long time, but it's been kind of informal. Well, now we want to make that formal and have a Black alumni council that can advise the university, just like our Young Alumni Council does, or our alumni council. So there are lots of things going on, but we are, I hope, humble enough to say we still have a long way to go.
Absolutely. And I think acknowledging like how far we've come and how far we have to go are both important into that conversation. And I'm guessing you would encourage Black alumni to really be a part of that conversation. If you haven't been involved in the colleges and the universities discussion on this, now's a good time to give you a call, send you an email, reach out to other organizations on campus to increase that conversation.
Absolutely, and to become more engaged, because we have today's students need mentors with whom they can relate, right? Who have shared life experiences. So, it was disappointing to read the Instagram posts, but on the other hand, it has made us move more quickly than we were.
Yeah, and seeing that it's not something that just Furman is going through, is something that every college, university, high school, middle school, even, they're all having these conversations, and they're tough conversations on race. And I'm glad that Furman is having that conversation. This is another hot topic that the university has had to deal with the cancellation of the baseball and lacrosse programs. Could you discuss the future of Furman athletics? And I know every time I see anything posted on social media from the university, people are always having questions about Furman athletics and those programs specifically.
Well, so let me talk pre-pandemic. Furman's investment in athletics, essentially athletics runs a deficit of approximately $20 million a year. Now, if you think about student tuition, right, and about 2,500 students, it says about $8,000 a year of tuition is going to support athletics. And it's just more than we can afford. We had the most athletic teams in the SoCon. We had the most scholarship athletes, and yet we're the third smallest institution. And so while I had been told on multiple occasions by consultants that we had too many teams, I was always reluctant to cut a team because we can see the result. I mean, it's heartbreaking. But COVID really required us to make some big decisions quickly. And so I told our athletic director that we needed to get $5 million out of the budget. And he worked with consultants, and the recommendation they made was then what we followed. But now we have 18 strong teams. What we want are 18 teams that can compete regularly for SoCon championships and make it into postseason play. And we already have, our cross-country team regularly is ranked in the top 25, if not top 10. The highest rated women's golfer in the country was a Furman golfer just this past season. So the goal is to really invest smartly and well in athletics so that we can compete and the students can have a great experience.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of people probably have trouble with, understanding the business of it and the numbers behind it. Because I tell people, it's not one of those things you'd imagine waking up. I don't think you woke up in the morning and say, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to do that, right? So, and Furman is a family. So I'd imagine having those conversations with the baseball coach and the cross coaches and all those staffs and all those students that are some of them are staying at Furman and continuing their education. Some of them probably transferred, but that's a hard conversation to have as a person. It
is really hard. And again, it was not anything that I ever wanted to do, but COVID has really required us to make some tough decisions. We had to figure out how to close a $20 million deficit this year because of COVID and enrollment and not being able to use the campus for different kinds of events and things. So it was tough experienced all around, not just athletics.
Yeah, absolutely. Some more questions coming in. Some significant changes to the structure of Greek life were made over the past year at Furman. Can you talk us through some of those decisions and any next steps for the evolution of Greek life at Furman?
Yeah, that's a great question. So back in the fall, we announced that we were no longer going to have the 4 off-campus fraternity houses. And this came after a review by an external consultant, and we review every part of the university on a rotational basis. And so it was time to review our Greek situation as part of our student life. And you might recall, it seems like forever ago now, but there were a lot of issues going on across the country with student safety, students who had died at fraternity or sorority parties. And having these off-campus houses was really just a great risk that really was experienced by all. The other thing to think about is it really wasn't fair in terms of, for fraternities being grandfathered in, but the sororities didn't have a similar kind of thing, nor did other organizations. And so the goal is not to eliminate Greek life. I was a member of a sorority. My daughter was the president of a sorority at Furman. I firmly believe that Greek life can provide outstanding leadership skills, social skills, philanthropic interests. So it's really a matter of making sure we're doing this in a way where students can learn and develop in a safer environment.
And another one of these questions that I really wanted to ask, because everyone knows Furman by those historic trees that line the mall. Ben Hawkins, 1970, says, what progress has been made on the tree replacement on campus?
Yeah, we're making, the first phases have gotten rid of the trees. They're dead. The ones that we're removing are dead. Just want to make sure everybody understands that. So it's actually a safety issue. I'm sure that the tropical storm just took care of a few more of them for us as it went through, because some of the trees have fallen. And so we'll finish the mall over the winter break. And as an alum from the 70s, and Ben, I don't know if you're on it and you remember this, the trees look about like what they did when the people in the 60s and 70s were on campus, because President Plyler planted 5,000 trees that now create the beautiful canopy that we're used to. But they used to be just, I think shorter than some of the students. So we're kind of returning to our roots, so to speak.
Yeah, and I knew that folks on this call would want to know about what the plan is for the trees at Furman, because they're such an iconic part of the look and the history of the university. So I think that's great. Let's talk some personal questions. We've talked some hot topics. We've talked a little bit about COVID-19. When Dr. Davis is not running the university, which that's all the time, that's not a job that ends at 5 o'clock. But what are some of the things that you like to do to relax, to wind down? Any hobbies that those watching may not know about?
Well, I'm a real puzzle person. So I'll do the New York Times crossword puzzle every day. Sunday, I actually get the hard copy of the paper so I can do all the puzzles in there, because it's just something that takes my mind off of, whatever's going on. It's a great escape. I guess my dream would be doing puzzles on the beach. So if I could be at the beach looking at the ocean doing a puzzle, then that's what I would like to do.
Puzzle person. It takes a real patient. Those are the characteristics we want in any leader, is to be able to be strategic. Every piece goes exactly where it needs to be, but you have to be in it for the long haul. And that's where I fall out. I get puzzle real easily.
That's right.
If you could have any job on campus for a day, which one would you want to try?
I think I would go back to the classroom. I mean, I really enjoy teaching. I feel like I still teach. I just teach different people, and I don't have to grade tests. But Charles and I have a textbook that is in its 4th edition. So I would love to have the opportunity to be back in the class teaching out of that textbook.
I think there's some ways they could probably make that happen. But this year, 2020 has kept everyone really busy. So no time to do anything but the jobs that you have to do to run the university. You've been at Furman for 6 years. Is there a memorable experience that rises to the top that came out of those 6 years of being at the helm of?
So I would say the personal highlight was being able to greet my daughter as she crossed the stage at graduation. And we have this really outstanding photo that Jeremy Fleming caught with me kind of cupping her chin and she looking up at me, so, gazing so lovingly. But what it really was me just wiping my lipstick off of her after I kissed her. And somehow Jeremy turned that into a great photo that she had framed for me for Mother's Day after her graduation. I'd say the professional highlight was when in 2016 launching the Furman Advantage, because of, when we were able to sort of jumpstart it because of a $47 million gift from the Duke Endowment. And to have seen how that has really become how we think and what we want every student to experience, it really has permeated the campus. And I'll tell you, in a post-COVID world, when people are trying to figure out how to move forward, because there's not been one institution of higher ed that hasn't suffered financially in some way, to be able to have that North Star and to have everybody really kind of behind what we're doing, it tells us what we need to do. It tells us where we can be more efficient. It tells us where we can't be more efficient. So it has really set us up for success in the long run.
Awesome. And I think part of the Furman Advantage is that we have one of the coolest dudes at the top of our university, and that's our first gentleman, Charles Davis. And I hear he may be around the house somewhere.
Here he is. Oh.
Hey, Charles, how are you?
I'm good, Marcus. How are you doing?
Good. I'm still waiting on you to bring the cookbook back to the studio with some finished dishes, but I guess my email must have got lost in translation or something.
Well, send it again and I'll make sure I get it this time.
Charles, it's a unique opportunity, and I think it's a cool opportunity to have a first gent that knows how to please a crowd. You come into a room, just light it up, and then you bring the cookbook and then all these great recipes. Tell me a little bit about like that role of first gent. When you first stepped into it, has it changed over the year? Has it evolved over these 6 years of what you thought it was going to be versus what it's become?
You know, I didn't know what it was going to be. I mean, there'd never been one. I'd never been one. So there wasn't like a rule book to open up and see what to do. And when I asked folks coming in, what do you expect? They're like, we don't know. So I really was able to sort of create the role that I thought it needed to be. And part of it is not seen, and that's just, supporting Elizabeth and what she does and trying to make sure things at home are running so she doesn't have to worry about that. But then it's also, I think, a big part, just hospitality, and how do we continue to welcome everybody associated with Furman, whether it's an event here at White Oaks or the President's Box during a football game or running into people on campus. So it really has evolved over the last 6 years.
And I mentioned the cookbook, but some people watching this may not be familiar with it. Tell us a little bit about how you really dove headfirst into telling Furman's story through this unique approach and to the food. I mean, Southern food and gathering around the Southern table is one of the big ways that we share stories. So it's kind of cool that people can take this with them and celebrate Furman. Yeah.
So White Oaks, for anyone listening who doesn't know, was gifted to the university in 1992 by Holmes Daniels in her will. And it came with all the furnishings. So it's kind of like living in a museum. And so on the 25th anniversary of that gift, I thought, it would really be neat to do something to commemorate that gift and the memory of all that the Daniels had done for Furman. I'd been having spouses of trustees for lunch during board meetings, and they were always, and I did the cooking. So they were always asking for the recipes, and they kept saying, you just need to do a cookbook. So we have all these recipes. And so finally I thought, okay, well, let's do the cookbook. And so it's really half history book and half cookbook, because a lot of it is talking about the house and things that are in the house with some great photography of things that are in part of the collection. And then I collected recipes from the presidents who have been at the new campus. So starting with the Plylers all the way through the Davises, their recipes from the first families. And so it was nice to sort of get that from everybody who's been involved at Furman. And so I think it turned out really well. We actually are in our second printing now. And so that's been good.
So Jamarcus, I'm going to confess, because I think we have a little time here to riff. So I will confess to thinking, so every president's spouse, at least that I had come in contact with before this, would always come up with a harebrained idea. And then staff would have to figure out how to nicely say, okay. And not being the cook in the family, and I don't enjoy reading cookbooks, I thought, oh my gosh, here it is. Here's the harebrained idea. And so someone had decided we were going to only print like 500 or something, and Charles finally upsold them to 1,000. And before we knew it, we ran out. And so I had to eat crow, right? This has been such a successful cookbook, and Charles will even get it out and follow his own recipes. So it's been great, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully done and gives history about the home that that a lot of people just didn't know.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book and it makes a great gift. I'm not paid by the university. I don't get a kickback or anything, but it is just a beautiful book and it has great stories and great recipes in there. If you guys are sitting down for dinner and Charles is cooking, what is the favorite recipe that you like, President Davis? Is there something out of there that you just like, I gotta have?
Well, I gotta say, last night he made 2 nights ago, some pulled pork that was so good. I said, why didn't we eat this earlier in our marriage? We've been married 31 years, and I think he just started cooking it a couple of years ago, but it was good. He does a great lasagna. He's really, really good at baking. And my favorite is a German chocolate cheesecake.
Ooh.
You had that, Jamarcus.
I did?
Yeah, that was one of the ones I brought down when we did the cook.
Remember, like, apparently it was so good it mesmerized me into not remembering it. We get so much food in the studio, but I think I'm gonna have to have you back for a redo so I can, refresh my memory.
Okay.
Charles, I'm gonna give you an opportunity because you get to see the president at her best and at the worst day where she's had to make a really tough decision or at least tell people about a tough decision. What has really, inspired you, impressed you about her? Obviously, you've known her for longer than any of us, but what impressed you about kind of the behind the scenes of being a spouse on the other side of a wife that's in a very, tough position in many situations?
I think what people don't get to see is all the behind the scenes work that goes into what she does on a day-to-day basis. So it's following trends, it's making sure people understand, it's getting all the facts and not just jumping into a decision very quickly, but really considering all sides of whatever decision she's having to make, and then doing the right thing, which is not always the easy thing, but the thing that's going to be the best in the long term for Furman and its students.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is, because we live in a world where it's easy to tweet someone, so-and-so made a terrible decision, instead of, it's harder to have that conversation with someone face to face, because then you have to humanize the decision. And the one thing that I really admire about both of you is the fact that you're accessible. We see you at events, we see you on campus, and we see you engaging with the students. And so it's not a president and a first gent that lives at White Oaks and you never see them. So we love that you guys are accessible, and I would imagine you want the folks watching this, whether you're a graduate of 40 years ago or if you're someone that graduated last year or still a student, you want to have that free flow of information and communication.
Absolutely. I mean, we enjoy going out and really celebrating our outstanding students, whether it's athletically, whether it's in the theater, whether it's a music performance. That's really, if not the joy, one of the top joys of being in this role.
Yeah.
Jamarcus, I'll tell you something else. I don't know if you know this, but Charles introduced cheerwine floats into the president's box. And it comes from a tradition back when we were in Texas. We would have Dr. Pepper floats because that is the drink of Waco, Texas. And it's just this blended ice cream with, in this case, cheerwine. And so every time at halftime, Charles breaks out the cheerwine floats. And if anybody sees Martha Johns, remind her that the very first time Charles served them in the box, she had 4 of them. So thank goodness there's no alcohol in those cheerwine floats.
and Charles, you probably had to Dr. Davis's interview. You're like, hey, I'm just handing out a little bit of samples. Here you go. That helped them sweeten the pot. But we are lucky to have both of you as our first family at Furman. And thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to lead this conversation. I interview people all the time, but this is one of the truly great honors. So I appreciate that. Dr. Davis, I'll give you an opportunity to close out our conversation and say something to the alumni. And we appreciate you for allowing us to be a part of this conversation.
Well, thanks, Jamarcus. It's always fun to be with you. To all our alumni who joined, thanks for being a part of this Furman at Home homecoming. It's just one of the ways that we're adapting to how life has thrown us a curveball, but we want to be sure that you stay connected to your alma mater. We're resilient. It's just an outstanding institution. We say that not just as the first family, but as Furman parents. We know how meaningful our daughter's experience was. So I'm hopeful that we will see you in person sometime soon, but until then, let's stay connected on Zoom. Thanks, Jamarcus.
Thank you guys very much. And I look forward to seeing both of you in person very soon. And there's only one way to end this call, and that's go Paladins.
That's right, all the time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye, DeMarcus.